What's up, everyone? It is Nate here, and I'm back with a out of the theater review. Now, this is my first one in a couple weeks. Took a little break, but gonna be getting back into the weekly reviews for you guys. I don't know why I decided to jump back in this week, because the big movie of the week is Snow White. Disney's Snow White, the live-action remake of the classic animated film. I went to see it in a pretty empty theater. It's Friday afternoon as I'm recording this, so maybe that's why. But it's also spring break, so I thought there might be some people in there. There's about 12 people in my theater. So I don't know if that says anything about the movie. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it. Before I do, if you would, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already, and hit the bell icon. That way you get notified every time new videos drop. Also, give me a thumbs up down below. Helps the video out. And leave me a comment. Did you see this? Did you want to see it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I want to know. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into like the sort of like the behind the scenes of the movie. I feel like it's so well documented. You could probably hear about it or read about it elsewhere. All I'll say is I know that this had a lot of controversy during the production, a lot of pushback from audience that first there wasn't going to be dwarves in it, and they were going to be magical creatures, and they were full sized, and then they went back and did reshoots, and then like I feel like this movie was supposed to come out well over a year ago. It finally came out. I'll start with this. I'm not the hugest fan of the animated Snow White. I like it. I think it's a classic. I enjoy it, but I don't love it. It's not like one of my personal favorites. I do love Disney movies. I grew up on Disney animated films. Snow White's just not one that I grew up watching. So I saw it a little bit later in life, and I appreciate it for, what it brought to the table, being the first full-length animated feature film in theaters or whatever it was. All well and good. But it's not like a personal favorite. It's not like, one, like I said, it's not one I watched a ton growing up. So I don't have that attachment to it, to like going into this movie where I'm like, oh, they better, not do this or not do that. I just it honestly had a fairly clean slate for me. With that being said, as far as the positives, I actually like Mark Webb as a director. He directed this and they did fine. Like the direction's fine. Nothing too spectacular, but also nothing like horrific or anything like that as far as the direction goes. Rachel Zegler, I think she sings really good. She has a really good voice, and she sings a couple songs in this movie, so I thought she did a good job with that. There are 2 scenes that I thoroughly enjoyed, though. And the funny thing with this movie is my 2 favorite parts are pretty much 2 parts that come from the original anime. There's a lot of changes. I'm just going to get that out the way. This movie is very different than the animated movie. Like, story-wise, there's a ton of changes. Character-wise, there's a ton of changes. But my 2 favorite scenes involve the dwarves, and I'm still going to call them dwarves. They never say it in the movie, but that's what they are. And I don't know why Disney decided to do this. Like, there's a ride here at Disney World called like 7 Dwarves Mine Train. It's not as if, I don't know why they decided not to call this Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, but whatever. It involves them, of course, when they're going to work, the Hi-Ho song, Whistle While You Work. Those 2 scenes, very good. I liked them. I thought the singing was good. I thought the music was good. Especially the Hi-Ho scene, because it has a lot of, I like the colors. They're in the mines and working, and it was fun. Those 2 scenes had the most energy for me. The rest of it, those are the positives. The rest of it, I didn't really like it that much. I think Gal Gadot, first of all, Gal Gadot, let me start with her. Beautiful, gorgeous, horrible singer, and she sings in this, and it's terrible. And her musical number is like cringe. It's like cringe level bad. I hated watching it. She's like bubbling her head a lot like this, and it looks weird. And then she's singing, and she has a terrible voice. And I just was not into it at all. I was like, this is a horrible, horrible song, horrible singing. Don't like it. Then you have a lot of the changes to the story. Like, I feel like these Disney live action movies, I don't know why they're like afraid to stick to the original storyline. There's nothing really wrong with it, in my opinion. And they're all pretty much the same. Like, Snow White in this is pretty much the same character as Jasmine in the live action Aladdin, is pretty much the same character as like Mulan in the live action Mulan. Is pretty much like, they're all like trying to be the person they want to be and the leader, and they need to do it for the people, and the people are all, they need a leader, and they gotta be these women, and that's okay. I would prefer Disney, like, come up with a new story instead of taking these ones that exist and then changing them into that. They're pretty much morphed into the same movie. Like they're all so similar. The character, like this Snow White is kind of like a little bit like Jasmine. She's like a little bit like Mulan. She's even a little Cinderella in the beginning. Literally, like she's like mopping floors and cleaning, and she has an evil stepmother. And I'm like, what? This is not Snow White. I don't know why they do this. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know why they changed it like this. It's super predictable. You know, it's okay to be predictable if you're remaking a movie and you've seen the original and you're like, okay, I know how this story goes, so you can. But when you're changing it and it's still predictable because you know everywhere the movie's going to go, a little stupid. So I think the storyline is not that interesting. I don't really like the changes they made to it. The songs, the original songs, the two that are in this are the best ones. The new ones, I'm not going to remember any of them. I'm definitely going to delete that Gal Gadot one from my mind because it was horrible. Her performance is bad. Zegler's okay. The dwarves are fun. I actually liked them. But anyway, I'm going to give this movie like a 4 out of 10. I think it's just not that good. It's not that interesting. It doesn't look incredible. There's parts that look okay and there's parts that look pretty bad. So the CGI is a little hit or miss. Yeah, so I didn't love it. 4 out of 10 for me. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this movie. I will be back next week with a new review for A Working Man starring Jason Statham. We'll get to something that I'm very more interested in than this. And until then, take it easy.